Welcome to the adventures of self. Conversations with ordinary and extraordinary people as they explore what it means to be self-expressed. Come on in. Join the adventure.
So, welcome Ryan Nurse to the Adventures of Self.
Hello, Taylor, and thank you for having me on.
Hello. It's great to have you on. Let's see. So we were, I think one thing to just bring in, because we were just talking about it before we got started, is this idea of taking a moment to arrive before we get started in something. So I think, I don't know if it's come up on episodes before, but as a sort of peeling back the curtain for listeners, one of the things that I do with guests before we start recording is to actually tune in together to what it is we want to create. I definitely consider that this is a collaboration, this is a co-creation. Ryan, you were just saying something about that, so I'm going to hand over to you. Like, what does that mean for you?
Yeah, no. So with anything in life, it is about like joining together with people, because you can only go so far on your own. And all these podcasts, which are incredible, like you say, it's a two-way thing. As much as sometimes you are the person getting interviewed, and you, for instance, are sitting there for most of the time just asking the questions, we are still doing this together. It's not a one-sided thing. So yeah, no, I really appreciate you for doing that. And I really love that about taking the moment, because we're in a world at the minute. Obviously, things have slowed down with this COVID, but it's been rush, and everyone is just at 1,000 miles per hour. And sometimes it's good to just take a step back and just have a moment for yourself and just take it all in. So yeah, no, it's great.
It's something that's really come up recently for me in conversations I've had with other people, is this opportunity to, and it doesn't have to be, you don't have to spend an hour meditating or take 2 weeks off to think about things. It can literally be 5 seconds or 30 seconds to just pause and say, okay, well, where am I? And maybe what am I looking to achieve in a particular situation, relationship, podcast, whatever the activity is. There's this moment of being mindful, because you're right, I recognize it in myself, and the culture we live in is just like rush. We have so many things to do, that there's so much, and there's not enough time to do them, and so we're kind of constantly running ahead to finish everything. And that's great, right? It's nice to accomplish things, but are you appreciating, are you even acknowledging what you have created and taking a moment to really appreciate that?
Yeah, no, I love that. And just with everything in life, it's about being present, because obviously you've heard a little bit of my story prior to this. When I was depressed, I was, say, focusing on the past, putting all of my energy on trying to alter the past. And then when I come back to my parents and move back like from out of my old house and start to progress in my life, I almost did become extremely anxious about the future. So I was both, 1 minute I was focused on the past, next minute I'm focused on the future. But then until I actually read the book, The Power of Now, which I don't know if you've read, I just become so present. And I realized that the only time we will ever have is right now. So you just need to sometimes just forget everything and just be present in the moment in what you're doing currently, and just take it all in, because that's all we'll ever have is this present moment. So yeah, it's incredible to take a moment and take a breath and a step back.
It's remarkable. I've become much more aware of that, and I've had actually several people talking about presence recently on the podcast. It is remarkable to think, like, what you said 30 seconds ago doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
But we're in the present now, and now we're in the present, and now we're in the present, and it just continues to unfold. And there is this, I recognize I have some people are very focused in past, right? Whether it's about trying to get back to a glorious, joyful past of when things were whatever, happy, simple, joyous, or people, I particularly, I can relate to what you're saying in terms of depression. I spend a lot of time, I spend a lot of time regretting what I didn't do. So I would look at something, whether it was a job that I wanted to go for, an activity, asking somebody out on a date, or whatever it was, right? And if it didn't happen the way I wanted it to, I wouldn't necessarily look at what the learning was. I would just spend all of my time regretting, oh, but if I had done this thing that day before, and then if this other thing had happened, then it might have been different. And yeah, maybe it might have been, but spending all that time in the past was certainly not doing me very much good in the present.
Totally agree. And like what you say about wishing and thinking, trying to say alter the past, and like I said this a moment ago, it's impossible. And we spend so much of our valuable time and energy trying to alter what we didn't do or what we should have done differently, almost like ruminating on what we could have done. And this actually has so much more harm than good, and it takes us away from that present moment, and it literally takes us, like I say, it takes us away from it, and we're almost going back and not moving forward. And progression equals happiness. So we've got to be present and just focus on those next couple of steps in front of us.
It's as you're speaking, I just remarking on how much energy I have spent in the past, and there is value to looking at something that happened or did not happen and taking a lesson from that. Right, saying, okay, I went for this, it didn't happen, or I went for this other thing and it happened, and it actually had a bad consequence. So what's the learning? What's the lesson from that? But to stay stuck in it is you, as you say, like we're talking about, so you're not actually in the present moment. And but it's amazing how easy it is. I mean, I spent literally, I'd say, decades ruminating, regretting aspects of the past, and it took me quite a bit. I mean, I recall when I read Power of Now shortly after it came out, so whatever that is, like 15 years ago, and it was revolutionary to me. I thought, oh, wow, I don't have to be in the past or the future. I can just be here. And that was a practice for me, like, and it's still a practice for me, because I go to the past, I go to the future. And some of that's quite useful. If I have to, when we schedule an appointment to have a podcast session, I have to know, oh, okay, at this time on this day, I've got to be ready. So I've got to get the mic ready, the camera ready to, be prepared for that. So there's a value to that. But otherwise, then it's like when I'm here, there's no value in, like, when I'm here on this session with you, there's no point in me thinking, well, what am I going to do for the next episode? Or, oh, I've got this email to send afterwards. Let me start worrying about that right here, right now. Like, that's going to take me away from you, take away from the value of this. So there are times and place when past and future are valuable, but I think that the opportunity to be in the present moment, it actually has, like, I found it has an enormous amount of freedom, because I'm kind of outside of the tyranny of my mind. I mean, my mind will naturally go to all the things I did wrong or didn't do enough of, or that I've still got to do tomorrow, or whatever it is. But that's not the entirety, right? If that's all I do, then I literally miss out on everything that's happening here and now.
I love that. I absolutely love that. And what a few things I want to touch on here is just about how people say about regrets. And I can go on to this later, because this is something that I'm really close to my heart, and I'm actually writing a book on it. So we can go into this later. But people always regret the inactions rather than the previous actions. So they don't regret, say, trying something and failing. They regret not trying that specific thing, and that sticks with them, well, I believe, forever.
Yeah.
And me personally, I would rather try and fail than fail to even try. And that regret literally stays for you forever. So yeah, I would love to go into that later on in the
Well,
episode.
let's go into it now. There's no time like the present.
Exactly.
Otherwise, we're going to regret that we didn't get into
I love that.
it.
I love that.
Yeah. So, well, tell me. I mean, tell me about the book you're writing. Tell me about what's kind of led you to this. You know, what is it you want to speak to about? Because I really, I could go on for stories and stories about the things that I regret, but so what, right? Now we're in the action, so let's just be in the action and talking about it.
Yeah, of course. So yeah, I'm just going to share my journey with you and get on to say the regrets and the books. So yeah, obviously my name is Ryan Nurse, and I'm a traumatic brain injury survivor who's also suffered from and overcome depression. So just over 9 years ago now, I was attacked on the way home from a nightclub, and with no physical signs of trauma, I just went home as usual, back to my parents where I was living at the time, and I just got into bed, and it was just like another night out. I thought I'd had a bit of a fight with this guy. I got attacked, and I thought I've been punched in the head quite a few times. My head was really hurting, but I thought I had a few drinks, and I'll get over it in the morning. I'll be okay. And to be fair, the last thing that I remember is just stepping to my mum's front door, and then I just blacked out. My parents couldn't wake me up the next morning, and that's when all hell broke loose. I was vomiting, and it was like jet black vomit. Like I say, parents tried to wake me up, and they just failed both times. So obviously, they called the emergency services. Ambulance come and pick me up, and I was rushed into hospital. And I had to go in for an emergency brain operation because it was a long process. There was a good few hours before, like my parents knew nothing to start with, and yeah, I had to be put into an induced coma because this operation I suffered from a fractured skull and a blood clot due to a bleed on the brain. So I was in that induced coma, and my parents didn't get to see me until hours down the line. So they just knew that I went in, couldn't wake up, but they knew nothing about this. So for any parent, this is like the worst case scenario. And later on that evening, my parents did get to see me. It was about 6 p.m. and I probably went on the ambulance maybe 11 o'clock in the morning. Wow. So that whole time frame there, my parents were unaware of anything that was going on. And when they did come around to see me that evening, obviously I was in an intensive care unit in a coma. And the specialist said to my parents that your son would be very lucky to survive the night due to the injuries that he had sustained. So, like I say, again, for any parent, that is like the worst news ever. But my parents couldn't do anything about this. As much they would have loved to do anything they could. It was just whether I'm going to survive this or not. So they just kept that hope. And 3 days in, I was still in an intensive care unit. No signs of progression at all. I was no movement or response at all. And on the third day, the specialists once again gathered my loved ones, gathered my family, and they had some sort of big news. So they went into a separate room and sat all my family down, and they said to my family there and then that they would suggest turning the life support machine off because there was zero brain activity. But my dad sort of, well, he did. He took uncomfortable action, I guess. He said to me, it's not uncomfortable because he said he'd do it for anybody and any parent would do this. But he stood up, and they said about turning, obviously, my life support machine off. And my dad said, no, it isn't going to get turned off. Like, Ryan takes his time to do anything. He does everything in his own time. So, like, you need to give him that time to come round. So, obviously, they said, like, it's not straight away they would do it anyway. Like, that it would be a few days and stuff. But they couldn't not agree with my dad. So for me, I'm so grateful my dad done that because, again, my parents, where they were going up and visiting me in the intensive care unit, there was families and which had, say, loved ones, brothers, sisters, uncles, daughters, like you name it. They had their loved ones in exactly the same position as me. But sadly, they did listen to the advice from the specialists and decided, obviously, to turn the life support machine off on their loved ones. And sadly, the result was it cost them their life. Like they didn't obviously come back. So that would have been me personally if it wasn't for my dad for stepping up. So they done that. And over the next, say, week or so, there was maybe minimal movements where I might twitch a hand or a toe might twitch. Specialists again told my parents that this was just sort of electrical pulses and don't get your hopes up. They told my parents that if I was to ever wake up, they still thought I was going to die. They said if I was to ever come around, that I would be in a vegetative state for the rest of my life and I would never walk or talk again. But my parents just, like I say, kept up that hope. And yeah, it was, like I say, for any parent, it was obviously the worst news. Like, my parents tell me things now, and every time my mum talks to me about it, she just gets upset. And I can just only imagine what any parent would go through in that situation. And yeah, they did obviously try to reduce the sedation the first time to bring me around from the coma, and that failed. I didn't respond at all. I wasn't coming around. So again, they suggested once more to think about switching the life support machine off because nothing was happening. But again, my parents were just like, no, let's try it again. So I think this was the next day now. One or that evening went by, and same again the next morning. Time to sort of fight or flight for me. It was all down to me whether they reduced the sedation and I would survive this or not. So they did, and I did come round. So it's incredible. I started obviously to function. My lungs, everything was working on its own. Amazing. So over that, say, week period, I did come around where I opened my eyes. The very first time that I saw myself in a coma, in an intensive care unit, I woke up, I looked down at myself, and it was like a surreal experience. I had wires, needles, tracheostomy in my throat, and I actually suffered an out-of-body experience, which was incredible. I could talk about this for hours, but yeah, I suffered an out-of-body experience. But when I actually first woke up, I did start to progress very quickly, to the point where, say, the tracheostomy got removed, and the very first time that I walked to the toilet on my own, it was horrendous because I looked in the mirror and I didn't actually realise what I was looking at. I thought it was Frankenstein. That's my honest opinion, because my left eye was sticking up. I had half the shaved head, stitches the whole way down my head, and I just looked like a skeleton.
Yeah.
So that was that. Once again, it was very quick progression after this, to the point where I was walking, talking, literally transferred me hospitals. I was in one hospital for 2 days the next time, and then sent home. So going in from you're not going to survive to coming out, walking, starting to progress and move on with my life, it was just under 1 month period.
Wow.
So this was incredible, and like I say, specialists said I was a walking miracle.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't know, maybe because you've said it many times, or it's just the kind of quality of the person you are. You don't. I mean, you say it kind of quite matter of factly. It's like, well, this is what happened. But obviously, there was a realization, like, you could very well not be here right now, and you have quite an accepting way of speaking about that. I mean, there's an appreciation and love for your parents. I don't know, it just comes through. And then I suppose, like, why would you need to glorify and make a big deal out of it? I mean, you just because I think what's interesting is what you've then done with that, because who knows how or why that happened. Like, credit to you, credit to your parents, credit to the mystery of the universe, to bring you back from that.
Yeah, no, I love that, Taylor. And my own personal experience about this, going back to, say, that out of body experience, for a very long period of my life, I was very confused. Growing up, didn't know what I enjoyed doing really. Obviously, I like motorbikes and push bikes and messing around as a child with your friends. But going up into, say, teenage years, going on to become an adult, early adulthood, I was very confused at what I wanted to do with my life. And going through that out of body experience almost was like it was a realization to me. And I honestly believe that I viewed myself through the eyes of my creator. And I honestly, like I say, I don't believe in gods and stuff like this, but I believe there is something out there, or there's someone or something that knows a lot more than any of us know. And what I saw was incredible. And I believe that what happened to me, and the reason why I come back around, and sadly other people didn't. This is how I see it, and I believe in this. I believe that I was sent back to say finish the job that I was sent here to do, which is to help other people through my journey.
Yeah, and I mean that's how we came to know each other. And I've been following you on Instagram. You have I really love the like the spirit and energy of the post, because there's just like this love that comes through, and it's not like trying to change anyone. It's not forcing anybody to. It's just you speak a level of truth about like what people go through, through depression, through just being human. I'm even depression, but just being human, right? We were speaking about this a bit in the beginning, and yeah, you have this sort of charm and ability to just share with somebody. It's like the reminder that they forget about themselves. Like you're kind of the little bird that sits on somebody's shoulder that says, "Hey, by the way, you're an amazing person. Just in case you forgot, here's a little 30-second clip. Here's a minute for me to tell you what your truth really is." I mean, that's what I get when I sort of tune into your messages and your shares.
No, thank you, Ted, and I really appreciate you saying that. It means the world to me, and yeah, I just literally share my words because, and I'm going to go on to this later in the episode. But two things in life that are certain, like 100% guaranteed. We're all born. If we're here, we're born. And another certain is we're all going to die. But it's what we do in between those two dates is what matters. What we do to ourselves, what we do for others as well. So, yeah, I'm just here to get the best out of between those two gaps.
Yeah, it's such a beautiful, simple, but very powerful way of putting it. Like that's it. You're born, you die. There's some stuff in the middle, and you, me, everyone gets to decide what gets filled in that space. And I think because it goes to like something around depression. I mean, I don't know how long it took me to deal with my depression. I mean, years, decades. I was on antidepressants. I used to drink a lot. I mean, I was just really not in a very good place. And there was something inside. I don't know, and maybe I'm sure that there were whether it's angels or friends or support or something that gave me something to allow me to say, oh, I can do something about this. I was talking to somebody recently who had gone through depression, and he was very surprised. He had no idea what was happening to him. It was on one of the previous episodes, and he spoke about how it started with he had a dog he was lying depressed on a couch, and his dog came up to him and kind of nuzzled him. And what he took from that was, oh, I've got to take the dog out for a walk. And so he started taking his dog out for a walk, and he would go around the block once. And then the next day or a week later, he would say, let's go around the block twice. That felt okay. Right. And it was just that small step to say, oh, I have a choice. Right. And I mean, I don't want to belittle the struggles that people go through with depression. I've dealt with it, and I'm sure people have far worse depression than I've dealt with, and so it's not a comparative thing. And I know people really, really struggle, but I guess the message is that there is an opportunity to say, what's within your control or choice that you can do. So for this guy, he could pick up the lead and take his dog for a walk, and he could either go for 1 block or 2 blocks, and from that he actually started then jogging, and then doing 5K runs, and then actually doing marathons, and he's completed 21 marathons, and his goal is to complete 100 marathons. So this is Jim Shupak from I think last week's episode, and so it's just remarkable. It's like oftentimes we can think, oh, I've got to get from here to the end point of something. It's like, well, you start with one step in front of you. like even hearing, your story about being in the hospital, you start with a twitch of the toe. Maybe that's an electrical response. And then you're able to open your eyes. Then you're able to walk to the toilet. Then you're able to go home. And, I know you said, I think you said when we spoke last time, you had quite a few months of recovery after that, after getting out. Yeah.
Yeah, it was months, and some things even years. To be fair, yeah.
And so just going back to what you were talking about in terms of the message. I mean, I think you say, you've got a mission now in life.
Yeah. So yeah, just going over what you were just saying there about taking the journey and taking the first step. So I just want to just emphasize about the journey of 1,000 miles starts with one single step. Like, we've all heard this, and it's so true. Like, we always overthink things, and I've been like this before. Overthink so much, we never take action.
Yeah.
And applied action, like, you got to apply this action. You got to do stuff. You can't just think about doing things. You need to apply this knowledge and just go for it, because it's not about the destination. To be fair, like, we don't think, oh, I can't wait to die, do we? Well, I don't. We don't think I can't wait to die. It's about the bit in between. Like I said earlier, it's about the journey. The reward isn't the destination; it's the journey. So yeah, we can dive into this later more if you want.
No. Let's get into it now. I mean, again, like,
yeah, sure.
No time like the present. I love that, because people say that all the time. It's like, oh, it's not the destination, it's the journey. But I hadn't really. The reason I laughed, I hadn't really thought, oh, the destination is death, right? The destination, the end of this journey, of our life's journey, is being buried or cremated or thrown out to the vultures or whatever. And well, hey, congratulations, you've made it, and maybe there's a higher place, or there's another world, and I don't know. So if that's true, great. Then you're on to another journey. But this journey we're on here, this human journey, as you say, the end is death. So congratulations, you've reached your goal. Here's your trophy, and you don't get to do anything with it because you're dead. So what are you going to do in that time between birth and death? And I think, because sometimes that can feel like overwhelming. It's like, oh my God, what am I going to do? Well, I just, like, it doesn't, not everybody has to be, the person with 1 million followers on Instagram, or have 5 Grammy award-winning albums. But there is an ability, there's an opportunity to, like, I see this more and more, this time between birth and death is like, it's a game. So play with it, really experiment, play, try different things, like, yeah, we've got to make money to pay for rent or mortgage. We have kids to feed, or, there are things to do. I'm not saying there aren't responsibilities, but for who you are and what you want out of life, there's a real opportunity just to play.
Yeah, and I love what you say, Taylor, about it being a game. And I almost see it, and you probably heard this before, about being a movie. But the thing, you are the star of the movie. Like, and I say to people about, say, going back to depression. I love to say this to people, because it is so true. I say to people, if you are down and not feeling great about yourself at the minute, because I've been there, just put your hand on your heart, on your chest there, and you feel that pump, beat. That's your heart, and it's beating. And as long as that is beating, you can change your ending. You can change how your life ends up. So as long as that is beating and you're breathing, you're alive. You are the hero of your own movie. So just go out there and do whatever it takes to fulfill your life.
It's like, for a lot of movies, right? You watch a movie, and okay, sometimes it's like, oh, this is a rom-com. This is this type of movie. I know what's going to happen. I may not know exactly how it's going to turn, what's going to happen specifically at minute 87 in the movie, but I pretty much know the trajectory. But there are other movies you're watching and you think, I actually don't know how this is going to end. I don't know if this is going to be a good ending or a bad ending. And I think what you're saying is, for some of us, we just assume that it's going to be it's like, oh, well, we're in a tragic movie. I'm the hero and everything's happening badly. But like you're saying, I mean, you can actually change that. You can choose for it to be a different ending or a different journey, right? A different play of that.
Yeah, so I'm going to say go on to say another thing that I'd really love to say. So, going on to what we said earlier about all we ever have is the present moment. Like we have at the moment, we have time and we have choices. They're the two
Mm.
things that we have, and it's what we do with that. And going on to the movie side of it, like these movies are amazing because they are full of ups and downs.
Mm.
There's always adversity for the star of the movie, isn't there? Because
Mm.
if there wasn't, we wouldn't watch it. It'd be boring,
Yeah,
right? It'd just be
exactly.
like just flatline. You'd be like, we know what's going to happen. Like he's had a good time the whole time, or he's had a bad time the whole time. So there's always a bad moment before the good. And it goes on for me to say what I love to say about. I honestly believe that adversity is a blessing in disguise.
Mm.
And from my own experience, I found that adversity is the prerequisite to growth, success, and true happiness. I
Mm.
believe that adversity, hidden at the very core of adversity, is the key to progression and lifelong happiness. It isn't going to be easy to find this key, but once you have obtained it, it will unlock the barrier to your next level of life. So adversity can be a gift if we
Mm.
choose to let it be.
Mm. Yeah, it's so true. There's such magic and gold in what you say, and yeah, I use that similar sort of metaphor or way of looking at a movie, right? If you went to watch a movie and guy meets girl, they fall in love, they get married, they buy a dog, they have a child, they walk around the lake, they have another child, they go to school, they go to work, everything's fine. Eventually you'd be like, this is a pretty boring movie.
Yeah.
Like, why am I watching this? Right? We go to see how somebody, and movies are this like mythical portrayal of what is possible for us, right? Like that, there is this like projection. It's like we go to see how somebody overcomes adversity. So, the idea of a story is things are thrown out of balance. So guy meets girl, they break up. Oh, okay. Well now, or um, woman goes to the office, gets fired, right? Okay, now there's something happening. Parents disown the child, right? It's like, okay, now we've got something. Aliens are coming on an asteroid to destroy Earth. Oh, okay, now there's stuff that's going to happen. Now we're invested, right? There's a challenge that there's adversity. And so how is the hero or heroine or whoever the subjects are, how are they going to deal with this adversity? Because then it gives us lessons, it gives us clues to how we may be able to deal with our own adversity. Because as you say, life is full of challenge and adversity, and we have this opportunity to say, well, okay, well, there's this adversity, so there's this wall in front of me. Well, I can't climb over this, I can't get around this. Well, there you go. What are you going to do? And you can do that, but it's kind of like, well, that's a pretty boring movie. You get to a wall and you just sit down and you say, well, I'm just going to sit here and wait out my days. Or you say, okay, well, let me figure out how to get around, under, over, through this adversity. Because it goes to this kind of like game aspect of, so it's literally like a bit like video games, right? Where and maybe this is a reason why they're kind of so popular. Because like when you play a particular video game, like the first screen, right, the first level, right, when you first start playing, it's like, oh gosh, this is really challenging. And then after a while you're like, oh, I can get through this level with my eyes closed, right? It's no problem. And then the second, and so you've gone through some adversity, and then you've overcome that, and now you get to level 2, right? It's like, oh, this is even more difficult, right? And so there's always this opportunity. It's like, well, there's an adversity, right? There's the demon at the end, the monster that holds the treasure or whatever it is. And this is mythical legends that go back hundreds and thousands of years. And people sometimes think, oh, like, oh, those are just fairy tales, they're just legends. It's like, yeah, but they're there for a reason. Why do they stay the test of time? Because they speak to something that is much deeper within us, an opportunity to see that what is happening in our lives is, in a way, it is a story, it is a fairy tale, it is an adventure, that that it has both literal and mythical or metaphorical qualities to it. And when we start to see that adversity as just something that is an opportunity for us, then we start to become curious and say, oh, okay, but what can I do with this adversity?
Yeah, again, I absolutely love what you said there, Taylor. And yeah, it's about those leveling up, isn't it? And in life, if we don't level up, we remain stagnant and we don't grow. And if we're not growing, we're dying. That's what I believe. And yeah, progression does equal happiness. So we need to look at every obstacle as an opportunity, because the way we look at the issue is the issue. So depending on how we look at, say, potential adversity that's in our life, we need to change the story, because if you change your story or change your thinking, you can change your life. And I've done that. And yeah, for a long time, I've looked at all of the adversities in my life from a negative point of view. But when I managed to flip that around, my life changed. It was amazing. My life just was incredible. And it will go on to or lead on to talking about gratitude as well. So yeah, I don't know if you want to, like I say, we're in the present moment now. Do you want me to just carry on with my journey?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. So yeah, so obviously coming out of hospital, yeah, it was just in time for Christmas, to be fair. I think the next month was Christmas. So yeah, amazing, incredible, family around me. So a few months prior, I was going in hospital, told I wouldn't wake up, to spending Christmas with my loved ones. So that was a very special Christmas. And yeah, I was very tired and worn out, obviously due to the trauma. I could literally just fall asleep anywhere. And my short-term memory was horrendous. Like, I could be having a conversation with you right now, Taylor, and just completely forget what we're talking about. Like, why am I doing this type thing? And that went on for a long period of time. But yeah, very soon after the coming out of hospital, maybe 3, 4, 5 months, I went on to meet him, which is now my ex-partner. And yeah, this was incredible. It was amazing. Like, she introduced me into world travel, which I love to travel the world now. And I never visited a different country prior to meeting her. So that for me was incredible. And again, it goes back to progressing in life. I was progressing and I was so happy, like going around the world. We was doing all these trips around the world and I'd never even thought about it or even heard about any of these countries. So yeah, that was incredible. Long story short about the relationship, because I don't want to talk too much about that, but 6.5 year relationship. Like I say, travel, progressing, moved out, bought our own house. So from an outsider's point of view, it was like Ryan is living this incredible life. Like went from just a boy, small boy, working, to going around, traveling around the world with his partner and moving out and buying their own property. So for anyone, say especially my age, because I think when I bought my first property at the time, I was maybe 21 years old, so I was quite young. So all of my friends were partying, drink, drugs, etc., and I was just like head down, focusing on the travel, etc. So yeah, amazing. So really big accomplishment for me that was. But like I say, sadly, after 6.5 years, that relationship come to an end. We went on multiple trips in 2018. Started off really good, but then there was like bickering, led on to arguing. So we were going on these trips away, but there was a lot of arguing, and it almost, the negative sort of clouds over the positive times. So there was a lot of positive times through that year, but the negative ones almost took over. So I didn't really understand it, in all honesty, what it was about, but I don't know. So that was that. And yeah, we got back from our last trip to Florida, November, sort of start of December 2018. That's when we got back. And just out of the blue, I didn't really see this coming, in all honesty, but my ex-partner said we should stop spending as much time with each other. And for me, like I say, it was a big shock, because as much as we was arguing and stuff, I didn't think it was that bad to say split up or stop spending the time with each other over. So 6.5 year relationship, spent most of my time with this person, to not wanting to spend as much time with each other. Like, I was like lost, literally lost again. And I I was starting to spiral downhill straight away because I didn't know what to do with myself. And at that period, I actually hated my own company and I hated the sound of silence. And yeah, for a long period, I was just say in my old house, just on my own. So this was like the two of the worst things, and I was living this nightmare basically. And Christmas come around, spent Christmas alone. My birthday come around in February, spent that alone. Obviously, I went over to see my parents, but because depression was starting to kick in, I didn't really want to be around anyone. But on the other hand, I didn't want to be on my own. March come around, the start of March, and this is 2019 now. And we had a trip booked to go to Cape Town backpacking for 2 weeks together. But obviously, my ex-partner didn't want to go anymore. So I sort of plucked up the courage to go on my first ever solo trip abroad. So I was petrified in all honesty. I thought Cape Town, because a lot of people, I weren't in a good place at the time anyway. And a lot of people that were close to me were saying all the negatives, like you'll get robbed, there's bad stuff out there. And I was just like almost consuming it without even realizing. And it was just planting in my subconscious mind and it was just making me petrified. But I built up that courage to go on the trip. But the weekend before going on this trip, I went out for some food with a good friend of mine. And I don't know if this is, like you say, this could be fate, the universe, whatever, but I actually just randomly bumped into my ex-partner that wanted to be single with another guy having a meal, obviously. And I was like, oh my God. And I didn't even see her at first, but I went to sit down literally next to her without even realizing. And I just kept my cool because as much as it was heartbreaking, it was also this big sense of relief because all of those thoughts for the months that had gone by in my mind, it's almost like it had come true. So I honestly thought that I was just going mad. I thought it was just me making all this stuff up in my mind, but it was true. So that was that. So it could have been like a really bad day of my life, but it was also a really, really good day of my life. I went to Cape Town, incredible trip. I met so many amazing people. And I built that courage and confidence, and I realized all of the incredible things that I could do by myself. So I literally felt like a new man. But sadly, the very first day that I got back, obviously, flew home, back to my old house, empty. My ex-partner obviously didn't live there because prior to seeing her in that restaurant, we lived there amicable. And that's what was sort of screwing my head a bit because I wasn't sure whether she wanted to get back together. There was some things said, but just different opinions. And I honestly thought there could have been a chance of, say, we got back together, obviously prior to seeing her out. But then coming back from Cape Town trip, I was on my own, literally living in a place on my own. And that is when the depression literally kicked in there and then. I just burst out crying. And I was just like, it's all down to me now. And I don't like my own company. Like, I do not like my own company. I was desperate. I was really desperate. And I think it was about a 5-month period in that home on my own. And it started by just not wanting to speak to people, sitting and crying most days. I couldn't concentrate at work. And then I ended up quitting the gym because I didn't want to go and put on a fake smile and a brave face, as to say, and just basically lie to people about how I was feeling because people say, how are you? And I'd be like, fine, and big smile on my face, but I really wasn't fine. And then it went on to my personal hygiene was suffering because I could literally lay in a bed and be really upset for a whole weekend and not even really eat any food. I'd go and get a glass of water and that was about it. So yeah, I was really suffering. And this downhill spiral, it was getting worse and worse and worse. I'll just break down in front of, say, my family or even friends, even at work quite often. I'll just break down. And it's because I was trying to bottle up all these emotions. And I did as well. I did for a long period. And going back to that desperation, I was that desperate for some sort of external happiness. I remember weeks, if not months, where I was getting literally minimal sleep because I was Googling how to be happy on my phone. And I'd sit up obviously with a bright light in your eyes. And I was Googling, I would literally click on every single website and I would search the whole of Google, desperate, trying to find some answers. And I didn't realize obviously until later that all of the answers was inside me. So that desperation turned into desperate, not just Googling, it turned up that external happiness to the point where I actually did go from, say, sitting at home crying for a whole weekend to going out to nightclubs, and I'd just spend I don't even know where I was sometimes. Like, I would just go out and just drink and just party, and that weren't me, because I'd drink, say, maybe 2 or 3 times a year, to go on to drinking 2 or 3 times a day sometimes as well. Like, it was incredible. So I was just desperate, and I turned to drink and drugs. I started to say sniff cocaine. I never touched a drug in my life, because I saw the happiness on these people's faces, and I thought I could find happiness there. But as much as it might have been for half an hour, the next day it was just plummeted downhill. And it got to the point where I realized that I needed help, because I couldn't go on like this. So I went to my local GP. I told them the situation, and in fairness, as much as it was help, it didn't feel like help, in all honesty. It was like, there you go, there's some antidepressants, take them and you'll feel better in a few weeks' time. You'll feel a lot worse first. And I was just like, and I didn't really know how worse I could feel, because I almost felt like I was at rock bottom then. So I went back to my loved ones and work colleagues and showed them, obviously, the prescription, and they said, like, no, that's way too strong of a dose. And I decided not to take the prescription in the end, and because I felt like I felt like I hadn't exhausted all avenues. So I ended up going back maybe 2 weeks later to the GP, and I said, is there another option? Is there another option? And they said there's CBT counselling, like, over the phone. And I thought, oh, this is incredible. Like, this is what I like, because I like to just sort of unload all this, what I've built up in my mind and stuff. And I did. It was a little bit of a wait, and that sort of period there was quite tough. I honestly think it was about a 4-week wait until I could get onto that. So yeah, I was really, really at rock bottom there. And we done the CBT counselling, 1 hour, 1 hour conversations, and I'd done it for, I can't really remember, even 4, 5, 6 times. And for me, in all honesty, it made me feel worse, because it was very scripted. And it almost was like, if I deviated from this script and just become a bit emotional and just told them how I felt, there was no empathy there for me, and it was just like straight back to the script, and it made me feel a lot worse, in all honesty. But this isn't, I've heard good things for other people, so I'm glad that I tried it. And
just quickly, CBT is cognitive behavioral therapy.
Yeah. So, like I said, it's worked wonders for other people that I've heard, but for me, sadly, it didn't work. So what I actually done, because when I was depressed, I was the best liar. Like I say, I put on this smile on my face and told people I was okay, but I really wasn't. And I actually lied my way out of the CBT. I just told them that I was a lot better, and they were like, no, but trying to talk me around. And I was like, no, look, I'm really, really better. And I wasn't. I was the worst I'd ever been. And
did you have awareness? Do you have awareness of that as you were doing it?
As in what? Sorry. Did
you have awareness that was just a front for you as you were doing that?
I don't know, in all honesty. Like, I just remember I was just like, it wasn't working for me, and because it made me feel worse, I was like, I need to get out of this. And I just lied it out. So maybe I wasn't really aware. I just unconsciously just lied my way out of it. So
interesting.
Yeah, but very soon after this, there was only literally a short period, and this is the transformation period for me. So what it was, I was sat down on the sofa, or sort of sprawled out on the sofa, or whatever I was. And it was literally a usual weekend where I was just downstairs on the sofa, just bawling my eyes out, and just, like I said earlier to you, focusing everything on the past, putting all of my energy into the past. And yeah, it was horrible. It was just a replay of any other weekend. But one single thought went through my mind that, like I say, transformed my life 180. And I was sat there crying, and randomly, I don't know where this come from, but the thought that went through my mind said, could I live with the thought of dying with regrets? And that thought, I don't know, it just almost like, it was just like shining in my mind. And it was like, I need to ask myself this question. And I asked myself the question, and obviously the answer was no. And then I just kept asking myself more questions. And yeah, I there and then I just started to say, reflect on my life and look at all the obstacles that I'd already overcome. Obviously, the brain injury and being in a coma and coming back from that, where they said I was gonna die, like I would never come around, but I did. So I thought, you know what, I've overcome this, or like I've overcome that, like this depression. Like I am feeling like shit, in all honesty, and I can come around from this. And if I don't try anything, I'm going to be in the same position as I am, say, in my mind as well, in a year's time, if I don't change my mindset, my thinking. So there and then, I just started to sort of think on paper and unload all those pressure in my mind. I just started to write down everything that I was thinking, and I looked at everything that I was writing. I started to question myself on all of the thoughts, and I realized that most of the thoughts weren't even like bad, as to say, anyway. So that just put that whole pressure off of me there and then. And I started to practice daily gratitude, and I didn't even know what gratitude was only until like a year and a bit ago. So I started to practice gratitude and be grateful for, say, everything that I had in my life, because I soon realized that the nightmare that I was going through was actually a dream for somebody else. Because yeah, I wasn't feeling great about myself, but so many more people would love to have a roof over their head and not feeling too good about themselves, or love to have clothes on their body, or food in their belly and stuff like that. So I thought, you know what, I am in actually a really good position compared to other people around the world. So by practicing that daily gratitude, I almost become, say, like a positivity magnet, where I attracted these small, amazing, positive things into my life.
And what was I mean, just to get into the specifics, I mean, how did this sort of, yeah, what did you choose to be grateful for? I mean, how did this look for you? How did you build that?
It was just daily gratitude. And what I'd do, I'd wake up in the morning. I'd do it most mornings and most nights as well. I'd just say, like, I'd wake up, and it could be something so simple like the sun is shining today. Like, because I like the sun. Yeah, I like the sun.
Yeah.
So the sun is shining today. Or I've gone downstairs and there's been, like, say, nice food in the fridge, and I'm going to make myself a nice something to eat, or something like that. Because a lot of people don't have that choice, and it goes back to choice. Like earlier, I had the choice to turn my life around, and some people, sadly, in life, as much as they are alive, for various reasons, they don't have the choice like we have.
Well, I think what's yeah, thanks for that. And I think what's interesting and helpful in what you speak about is the simplicity of it, because that aspect of gratitude sort of brings us back to what we started with, which was around presence. And so something as simple as the sun is out today, and I am grateful for the sun. It sounds quite trivial, but I mean, the fact is, none of us would be alive if the sun weren't out and burning and giving us its warmth and light and all of that. So that ability to acknowledge that, to be grateful for, being able to walk down a set of stairs, being able to eat a meal, being able to walk outside, whatever it is, whatever it is, again, it's like, it sounds like it's a start for getting to that 1,000-mile journey, right? It's like, oh, it's one step. Oh, today I'm grateful for the sun. Today I'm grateful for my mother, or for my dog, or my neighbor, or my partner, whatever it is, that you can be with, acknowledge, and to me that brings us back to presence, because with presence there's awareness, right? It's like, oh, actually, here I am. Oh, I do have choice. Oh, I can choose what to eat today, what to wear today, what to do with my time, where I put my energy and focus.
Yeah, no, totally love that, what you say there. And yeah, it's just about gratitude. Like, it makes what you have enough. And that's what the thing was with me. Like, I felt like, because I was looking, say, back at my life, looking back in time, I thought like I was losing all of these things. Like, oh, I'm going to lose my house. I've lost my partner at the time. I lost my partner. I'm going to lose my house. So I wasn't, say, being present and looking at everything I did have, because so many people would love to have the things that I currently had. So, yeah, no, we need to be grateful for the things that we have in life, because honestly believe, if we can't be grateful for those small daily things that we take for granted,
Mm.
how could we ever be grateful for something, say, incredible or amazing that may come into our lives? Like, we couldn't. So we need to be grateful for every single thing that we have.
Yeah, really powerful. And I just want to move into, because I know you said you're working on a book, and
Yes.
also, you know, like what I mean, maybe there's a personal aspect of the book, but it feels like I also want to just maybe bring in, you know, around, because we spoke about it a little bit, your mission, because I think you have a mission. You spoke about sort of this idea of uncomfortable action, and I think you want to inspire people to take what you call uncomfortable action. What do you mean by that?
Yeah. So yeah, just carrying on the journey, if it's okay, just
Yeah,
towards the
sure.
end of it. Yeah. So what's going to lead into this? So yeah, like I say about the gratitude, I become a positivity magnet to the point
Mm,
where I got a release date from the prison that I was locked in, which I called a home. And before you know it, I was moved back to my parents. On the way back, I set myself this travel goal to visit a different country every single month for a complete year, which
wow.
I'd done. So that was from, I think, August 2019 up
Mm,
until February 2020,
mhm,
where I did visit a different country. And when 2020 come around, I thought I need to keep progressing, because
mm,
progression equals happiness. And I
mm,
booked 20 countries in 2020. But obviously, COVID, my last trip to Rome in February, put stop to all of that.
mm,
So that was like the realization for me then. I thought the world is going through these very unprecedented times and like awful times. Like
mm,
there's it's just tragic around the world. Like all these horrible things happening around the world, like people losing loved ones and just
mm,
spread all over the news, like negativity, and yeah, it's just horrible. So I thought, how can I use the knowledge that I'd gained from
mm,
facing and overcoming the adversities in my life to help other people in these difficult times? So that's when I obviously started to put my message out on social media and started to do, say, lives and Instagrams and you
mm,
name it. So, and every time I'd done it, I realized that the more I become vulnerable and opened up,
mm,
the more that it was helping other people. And I got so much great feedback because no one wants to become vulnerable. And I
mm.
honestly believe that vulnerability is a superpower
Yeah,
because there is so much strength within vulnerability.
yeah.
And once we can sort of become vulnerable, I believe the true healing happens because
Mm,
not only are we healing ourselves by becoming our true authentic self and opening up and showing that self that we like to hide from other people,
mm,
we also allow other people to then feel comfortable to open up about themselves too. So like I say, I started to share my journey online, and yeah, incredible. And I really thought this is my purpose in life. Like this is what I've been put on this earth to do, to help other people through my journey. So the months
mm,
obviously went by through 2020, end of 2020 come around, and I thought, you know what, I need to level up again. And for a long period, I've been saying to myself that I should like I should write a story on my life. And people were telling me like, you could write a story in your life. And I thought,
mm.
you know what, I'm going to start doing it. So it starts with that one single step, right? So I thought, right, I'm just going to do one paragraph and I'm just going to start writing. So I thought, I know what I'm going to call my book straight away. I knew the name of my book straight away. And what I done actually, I've done it, and I went on one of the apps on my phone, and I literally made a front cover to my book, and I sent it to someone, say like almost a mentor of mine,
Mm.
and I sent it to him, and I was like, I'm going to write a book, and he's like, yeah, go for it. So I've titled the book, "Could I Live with the Thought of Dying with Regrets?" Because that was
Mm.
obviously the thought that got me up and out of that ditch that I was stuck in.
Yeah, beautiful.
So yeah, I'm currently writing it, and now I'm just I'm spreading my message.
Yeah, it's awesome. I love taking that one moment. You know, there are these things that happen, and maybe it's not just one moment; it may be a string of moments. But as you said, through all that depression and sadness, and being very down, and going through different, you know, potential therapies or you know, whatever, um, escapes, you know, of going out, drink, drug, whatever, that there came a moment, and as you said, you don't know where, you don't know how, but somehow a thought came to you, um, that asked a question, and that question is the first step, in moving away from that sadness and moving away from that, despair, sounded like.
Yeah, no, it was, and like I said, I don't know where it come from, but it was obviously, it was a sign, it was an opportunity, and I just stuck to that thought like glue, and I was like, oh my god, like where did it come from? Like my mind was doing all sorts of things at that time, that period of time, and I don't know where it come from, but it was almost like just a light that come into my mind and just said like, could I live with the thoughts of not trying to get up and out of this ditch and just trying to do something to make me feel better? And no, I couldn't. And yeah, it was just a random thought that went through my mind, and it was incredible, and it was exactly what I needed at the time to through our darkest periods. Sometimes the most amazing things happen in those dark times.
And I think not only having the awareness, but having the ability to grasp that, to say, oh, this is an interesting, maybe an important thought, but it's an interesting thought, and I can do something with this.
Yeah, no, like I say, I didn't really know where it come from at all, and I did, like I say, it was just that one single thought, because I was that desperate for that external happiness. I was trying to do anything. I would have probably paid good money for someone to make me happy, and that thought there and then just made me feel a lot better. It didn't make me feel happy there and then, but it started the journey to true happiness and fulfillment, because happiness, it is an inside job, and it comes from within. And me, that I've gone through it, and so many other people were always looking for happiness in someone or something else. But I'm telling you, materialistic items and other people don't make you happy. They can sometimes aid to raising your happiness, but you make your own happiness. Like, you have the choice to be happy or sad. It is down to you.
Yeah, beautiful. I feel like there's a really upbeat and good place to end, that you have the choice to be happy. And so, I'd encourage listeners to take the first step.
Yeah, no, sure. And just a couple of other things that I wanted to go on to just quickly. So yeah, 2020, obviously, like I say, started to write my book, and then 2021, I haven't felt fulfilled for a long time. Like I say, I've been in my current day job for over 13 years, and I haven't been fulfilled for a long time, and I've been lost. Like, what do I want out of life? And this, helping people become the very best version of themselves, is what I love to do. Like, I get true happiness and fulfillment, and this burning, this passion, and I can't even think of words for it, but I get so happy inside when I can make somebody else feel good about themselves and help somebody get the best out of their life. So just recently, I decided to quit my unfulfilled day job to follow my mission and my vision, and that is to have positive impact on over 1 billion lives by sharing my message, and to be the beacon of light that the world wakes up to. Because so many people go through life not knowing what they want to do, and then they get to the end of their life with, like I say, regrets. And for me, when I was in a coma on a life support machine, I wasn't conscious whether to decide to turn my life support machine off or not. And I've realized that so many people have already unconsciously switched their own machine off, and they're not progressing. And Benjamin Franklin said that most people die at 25 and aren't buried until 75. Because the greatest loss in life is not death, it's what dies inside us while we live. So get out there, guys, and just follow that, whatever you want to do, just follow it. So don't fear dying, fear not living. So live full and die empty.
Beautiful message. I love all your messages, Ryan, and obviously we'll have in the show notes links to your Instagram. Your videos are really inspiring. It really is such a beautiful message. I really, my heart goes out to listening to what you have to share, and I'm really happy to have had you on the podcast.
No, I'm really happy to be a part of it, and I just want to say thank you for having me on, and thank you for everybody that's going to listen to this as well.
Yeah, cool. Thanks, Ryan.
Thank you so much. Have a great day. Have a great week, and I'm sure we'll catch up soon.
And a great life.
Yeah, exactly.